Coming to you from a portable microphone, this is Don't Get Me Started. This is a conversation about advertising. And here is your host, freelance creative director and creative circus department head, Dan Balser.
Yes, welcome back to another episode of the podcast. First off, thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate your dedication, and I appreciate that you're taking advantage of my dedication of continuing to churn out these conversations. Today it's Lance Parrish, as you know. Lance and I have spent some time together. Last night we enjoyed some beverages and had long talks, and some of that I think we're going to get to. I hope we get to it. And Lance said we can talk about anything. I don't know where this is going to go. I hope it's entertaining. Before we start, make sure you like the Facebook page, facebook.com/DGMS podcast. That's where you're going to have all links, all the information that you need. Lance is creative director at Grey Group. You knew that from the description of the show. He graduated from the Creative Circus in 2007. Took a freelance/internship at BBH, sleeping on the floor, putting up with a very, very internish existence for a while, living on Rick Williams' floor on a yoga mat. Just because I said Rick Williams, that doesn't mean you can just Google Rick Williams and ask for a place to stay. I don't think that he's open to that anymore.
No, I wore that out. That's done.
I think Lance has used that up. Then he went to Kirschenbaum, Bond, Cynical, and Partners. He was there for 3 years and 7 months. And then for the last 5 years, he's been at Grey Group. And for the last almost 4 years of that, he's been is that right?
No.
For the last 2 years of that, almost, he's been a creative director. And part of what we talked about last night was just being an art director, his portfolio, the different jobs and roles that go from being an art director to being a creative director. We talked about the bosses you work for and those kind of things. And I'm excited to talk some more about all of those things. You look great.
Thanks.
You sounded great in the forum.
Wonderful.
Welcome back to school. Welcome back to the podcast. You were on the podcast 6 years ago.
Great to be back.
And when you were a little trendier looking, a little bit more Kirschenbaum, which I've always kind of thought of as a New York nightclub type of agency. Had a handlebar mustache, and now you're looking more honest in your appearance. Yeah. But welcome back.
Yeah, good to be back. I'm definitely less trendier, which I think is probably a good thing. I was probably a little over the top last time we saw each other.
Maybe.
Really figuring it out, I suppose, back then.
Yeah. So tell me. Let's talk about the first. Let's not talk necessarily about the BBH. Let's talk about the first job. And one of the things that you and I have been talking about was that how important that second job is. But what do you think you learned in the first sort of chapter of the career that informed your next move in this job where you are at Grey? What was it? What did you learn that was important, and what?
I guess going in, we're talking about with the Kirschenbaum gig, right?
Yeah.
I learned. That's where I kind of learned That's where I learned to do the job. And I think it was at my next job is where I learned to do it well.
Interesting.
So I got a ton of, when I was at Kirschenbaum, first of all, it was a great place. I was pretty much riding out the recession. I think this was in 2008.
Right, yes.
And I was thrilled to just have a job. So that was good. I was making money.
Can I ask you a question? You said that Kirschenbaum was where you learned how to do the job. What's the difference between getting a book together and being an art director and learning how to concept and design? What's the difference between that and the job? What do you mean doing the job?
I think doing the job it's like the day-to-day of it, like the answering to clients and, answering to, your creative directors at that point in time and learning how not to throw the tantrum when the thing you loved gets killed.
Right, that took me. I don't think I learned how to do the job then ever.
It took a really some still to this day I might not know how to do the job in that respect, but it was I learned, I don't want to say necessarily the craft because I wasn't super proud of the work I was doing there, but I was learning how to make the meetings, how to follow deadlines, all the bullshit that you never get taught.
Right.
And then I think once I learned the game, I then could apply creativity to that. So it's a little bit like we were covering earlier. It's like once I learned how to address kind of the strategy of this meeting and how to get everybody kind of leaning back in their chairs and let them know that I've crossed off and checked all the boxes on the bullshit that's important to them, then that makes it a lot easier to sell the idea or the joke or the funny, wonderful thing that I'm in love with. Yep. So it's a little bit of, I guess there's a little bit of a hierarchy thing, like letting everyone relax. Like, and guess what? I'm not a fucking idiot. So here's the thing you're looking for. Now that you got that, here's the thing that I'm excited about.
Right. What do you think? There's a great question from Derek Smith at Forum. He asked, when you got out of school, were you surprised that you had to do that you kind of were uncomfortable in not really in your comfort zone, and were there things that you had to adjust to, whether it was like having to go back to do work from a creative director, or was there anything about the process that was just kind of thrown into cold water for you that was kind of a shock?
Well, all of it, really. And I probably should have been a little bit more honest with them, but hopefully they'll listen to this as well. All of it was a shock. Like, I think like my first arrival in New York when I went into BBH and they handed me and it was me, Cooper Smith, and Jeff Hester and Steve Lum. They handed us a brief, and we thought we were there for an interview. And they like, oh no, you're our interns. Like, fucking what?
Right.
So
crazy.
That was a shock. And then, like, what do I do with this suitcase? That became a shock. And they're like, oh, I'm going to sleep on Bo Unruh and Rick Williams' floor for the next 3 months was a shock.
To Rick.
To them, sure. Most definitely. And poor Bo, he would, like, the place I was sleeping, he would, like, have to step over me every morning on his way to the bathroom. He wore loose boxers. It was quite a show.
Yes.
It was all a shock. I wasn't really necessarily prepared or ready for anything, but I think once you finally got into the office and it was like trying to come up with an idea, it was like, okay, what are the parameters? What are this? What are that? Like, parameters were new.
Yeah.
Well, what do you mean it needs to be a TV commercial? You don't know what the idea is yet.
Right.
Like, oh, the media's purchased. That was kind of new and a surprise. So it was all a bit of a shock, but I think, we roll with it and figure it out as we go.
Yeah, let's talk about rolling with the creative director role. What have you picked up, whether it's something you don't want to do or something that you do want to do, when it comes to supervising work or junior teams or younger teams? One of the things you had also mentioned at Forum was, pay attention to the creative directors and pay attention to the things that you don't like and don't do those things, and pay attention to the things that you do like and do those things. So What are some of the things that lessons that you've learned as a professional since you've been out?
Well, it's like when, I guess 2 years ago when I got promoted, that's the thing, is like, no one ever teaches you how to do the job that they want to put you into.
They do any type of leadership training stuff at all? Do agencies do that stuff?
I think they do. I think Gray used to do it. I've seen people. Maybe I'm just not one of the chosen ones. I have no idea.
I don't know. I don't think so. It's got the title.
No. No one teaches you. No one's like, okay, this is what it means to be a creator. You just have to take the things that the experiences you've had working for people in the past, and I just think about the guys that made my life miserable, and I'm like, did they get good work out of me? Did they motivated with like fear and anxiety? And guess what? The work wasn't good.
Right.
So okay, don't do that. That's
you wouldn't
not my
really
nature.
do that anyway. No.
And I think I always realized like what I wanted was time and space to craft and do my thing, and that's what I try and get people. So if that means I got to take a hot meeting, and people that aren't going to be necessarily upset, but I can maybe get a day or two more time for teams to kind of really craft what they're working on and really get it to a good point. I'll take that heat. I'm not afraid of a bad meeting, and I think a lot of people are. I think you'll end up with more answers and have a better go the second time after coming out of a bad meeting. I think you learn more.
Yeah.
So I'm not afraid of those, and I think it's okay to fuck it up occasionally, I think.
All right, so how long are you going to be in advertising? And if you had all the money in the world, what would you do right now?
Oh, holy shit.
If you didn't have to go to
I wouldn't be
work.
doing advertising right now if I had the money, I don't think. I would be retired. I'd have like 10 separate projects that don't have deadlines.
Right. What are the top two of those? Two that come in your mind?
I'd be making a dining room table and probably writing a short
Wood?
story.
Wooden?
It'd be wooden. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It'd be definitely made out of wood. There would be sawdust flying everywhere. All the money, like going to shopping for the tools to do that would be amazing. Cool. Just like hanging out in like Home Depot.
So I get this sense from you, and this could be way off base and might not stay in the podcast, that like, okay, yeah, this school kind of sounds cool. You come here, you did pretty well, got a pretty good job, and then sort of inertia took over and the career just kind of happened. And you're doing it, you're successful, you're in a great agency, getting promoted, and your natural personality of having a work ethic has served you well, but I don't think you're in a minority of people in advertising that kind of long for something either more meaningful or more personal. So is that something that you struggled with, or that have friends that has this ever come up? Has this ever been discussed?
I think it's. I would say the majority of people in advertising didn't when they started getting into it, whether they went to it wholeheartedly, like I want to do advertising, or they stumbled into it and found themselves there. I think it's at the point now. I would guess 70% of those people are like, "What the fuck?" And I'm in that group. Like, this works. This is cool. Mm-hmm. I didn't see it coming.
Right.
I didn't, even though I went to school for it, but I didn't expect it to be this. But like I said, it works. It's cool.
What's better? Fine. What's better than you thought it would be? Or what is it that keeps you going? I guess is a better way of putting it.
I just being able to create things,
make things.
I think everyone that's I keep using these big broad terms like everyone and majority. I
tend to do the same thing.
What a jerk! Like, who the fuck do I think I am?
No, I do the same thing as superlatives. It's like, why you can't say that, but you can say. Right. I know what you mean.
I've lost my train of thought there a little bit.
What is it that gets you excited? What brings you to it? Besides making,
I think making. I think a lot of people are makers, and it's like this is a great job for makers who haven't quite figured out what it is they really want to make.
Right.
I'd love the reason why furniture and stuff.
Yeah, one of the reasons I asked this, I think that because of the state of the calendar right now, this week for me, with students graduating, and there's a lot of angst about choosing the right job, and like they don't want to make mistakes, and they're either overly excited about getting a job or overly upset that they don't have one. That where you sit, and especially where I sit, you can see sort of the terrain. It's like it's really kind of give yourself a break a little bit.
Yeah,
like you've already laid the groundwork. You're gonna work, and then you're gonna realize that that's the first step of figuring out what you want to do with that, or do after that, or apply that. So, I guess
they're hard on themselves.
I think
I was hard on myself too.
How?
I just kept like. I still to this day don't like the majority of the work I have and do. Well, other people say, "Oh, I really like that. I think that was good. That was a really good solution." Like I think by the end of the day, spending so much time with it, and you see all of its flaws, all the flaws that no one else will ever see.
I think that's great that you're like that.
And you hate it, and you can't watch the thing you made or look at the thing you made without seeing those huge flaws. I think all of the students at this stage are in the same thing. They're in the same boat. So it just
nobody knows what
insecurities, but no one knows that backstory.
Right, no one knows the backstory. No one knows the cut that didn't make it or the line that changed or any of that stuff. They're just seeing what exists.
No.
So you did this great. Okay, so you and Steve Nathans worked on a Super Bowl commercial paid for by the NFL for domestic violence that I hope the listeners have seen. If not, I'll make sure it's posted on the Facebook page. when you watch that spot, do you think, oh, that cuts too long, or that's not?
That's.
Are you proud? I know you're proud. I know you're proud of it.
Yeah.
But as a technician, are you like? Are there things you would do differently on that? I'm just curious.
Yeah. For as an example, Steve Nathan's voice is in the background, and I think he sounds like a total douche. And I wished it was someone else.
Where and what? How? What's the context of his voice?
It's when the woman's on the phone. You hear a guy in the background and just yells out, "Make sure you get enough."
And, I didn't hear it.
And that was just like a last minute. Well, it can't be me because we can't have a fucking Southern dude back there yelling. And
it's funny that you have that because I mentioned the spot that I did that was a brief no one wanted to work on.
Yeah.
Low budget, and we had the very end of the spot. You're supposed to hear a lawnmower and a radio with a baseball game going on. And I did the voiceover for the play-by-play for the home run. And the guy that hit the home run was our producer, Julie's last name. And every time I hear a spot, oh, here I come doing the stupid baseball play. I said, why did I say it like that?
Right. And that's the same way I feel about Steve Nathan's being on that spot.
Yeah, nobody on earth hears that or cares about that at all. Yeah, that's the mark of a craftsperson. And I think you're way too hard on yourself because I don't think
we all have to be
because
right?
because you constantly are saying your book wasn't that good and you weren't that good, and like you don't feel like you're like a phony about it. You're legitimately saying that you don't believe your book was very good, and I think that's I think that it's really cool to not like your work because I think that it like. Once good enough is good enough, then you've kind of given up, frankly. Right. I think you, at that point, you just do anything that's good enough, then fuck you. You're not really that valuable.
Right.
So that's good.
Yeah.
But like, really, like, I don't know, man. I think your book was not as bad as you present your book to be, and you're not, I don't know, there's something going on with that where you're too hard on yourself.
I think it's like, because it's like once I started working with Steve, we both... we overlapped maybe a quarter or two in school, and then we went off separate ways. He went off to Goodby, and I went off to the BBH and then Kirschenbaum, and then we came together. I was already at Gray and brought him in, and like we somehow were like, let's compare our student books.
Wow.
And after we've been working for like 7 years or so, we pulled out our student books and compared them. I was like, holy shit, yours is way better than mine. And I was like, mine was awful. And like, mine was, it was probably a really good book for everyone that was coming out of school at that point in time, because I got a job, I was employed, I got employed during the fucking recession, which probably wasn't easy.
But I just don't think that your student book is an indicator of how good you're going to be.
It's not, and I think that's the point.
There's a guy who graduated from here, Will Benham, I'm going to say his name. He will admit that his book wasn't very good. Mm-hmm. He's so good, it's stupid.
Yeah.
Like, he's crazy. He'd been at Crispin, every idea, because Lisa, my wife, works at the same agency, that she sees from him, and she just came home and she's like, he is really good. And he will tell you straight up, I wasn't that good in school. And I think that, I think a lot of the listeners of this podcast are young, or students or juniors or young, and they're thinking about that everything is so critical, that their book is so important. Right. And the question that came up in forum about what's more important, talent or work ethic or hard work, it's like, yeah, they're both really important, but we could talk about this I could talk about talent versus work ethic all day long.
You look like you were ready to tee off on that one.
All day long.
Right.
Because I think some of the most successful people who created the best opportunities for themselves, were dedicated. Yeah. And, you look at this is cliched, I don't want to talk too much about it, but like the great athletes are great athletes because they have a love of it. And I just listened this morning to an interview with Christian Pulisic. He's a 17-year-old soccer player for the U.S. men's national team and also for Borussia Dortmund in Germany. And he even said, because the interviewer asked him, when did you know you had something special? And he said, I was 11 or 12 and I could beat guys off the ball consistently. I knew that this was going to take me somewhere. So, but there were a lot of guys that were talented. He said, I just loved it. I wanted to do it all the time. Right. And the people who are wildly successful, like, I don't want to name too many names, but the Rick Williamses in the world are the one who have both. This is what they have to do. This. Yeah. This is what they're going to do, and they're talented. But hard work, man, makes up for it big time.
I think a prime example. really interesting mind the way it works. One of my best friends, Dave Canning, another really good creative mind. Mm-hmm. He's a fucking workhorse.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like the guy eats.
Well,
sleeps.
you don't realize that. Yeah. You don't realize that, like, people that aren't in the business think that, like, you know, come up with something funny. Say something. You're funny, guys. Come up with a good idea. It's like, that's not really how it works. There's a process to it, and the process takes a lot of time. And, like, all we see is the end result. We think Dave's a genius. Dave may be a genius, but I know that he's worked hard to make himself a genius.
Yeah, no, it's the work ethic's definitely there. It's the same thing for Rick Williams, and there's the Jesse Drigas, and the guys that that I think kind of around my age range that kind of went out there and really just crushed it. Mm-hmm. They have the cross section where it's like they're talented, but they're really hard workers.
Yeah, and I also don't think that here's another thing, and this is just my own commentary. I don't think you have to crush it to be happy and successful.
No.
I think that success can be, a really well-paying creative director job, overseeing teams that you're shaping. And I think that where you are right now is a sweet spot. And you have moments of crushing it. I'm not taking away from your huge successes, and you're going to have more of those, but to compare oneself to the superstars, I mean, look at any professional sports league. Look at all the guys that just go to work, you know, and they have great careers.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I again, this is framed in my mind in the eyes of, like, setting realistic goals for people's careers, not to discount yourself or be hard on yourself because you're not necessarily what you think you need to be successful, or what you think it takes
It's all relative.
Right.
I like a lot of those guys' jobs I wouldn't want to have.
Right, that's true too.
I like going in and like doing the job, and I like work my ass off until we get to a place that I'm like, that's cool. And once I get there, I kind of want to go home, and I want to
recharge.
Spend time with my
Have a
girlfriend.
life. Yeah.
I want to go eat a good meal. So it's a bit of a I'm in a balancing stage, I think, at this point. Mm-hmm. And majority of my job is trying to, like I said, find as much clean air and space for teams to work.
Was that a driving analogy? Clean air, a NASCAR thing?
I don't know. Maybe. Yeah. I think it is. Mm-hmm. That's when they get out in front of the pack and they get clean air and they can go faster.
Maybe. They have better control.
I don't think it can.
They have better control. I think when you're behind other cars, you're in like rough air, not dirty air, but there's turbulence. Yeah. And your car's less stable.
Right.
So clean air, you can see the road ahead of you, and you kind of have a little bit more freedom.
Right.
Yeah, that's what you meant, right?
I guess, but
you talked about blue water earlier.
Blue water, yeah.
Yeah, away from the chum, like the fresh water where no one's going to bother you.
The sharks are all eating up over there. Like, don't jump in that water. Go to the blue, clear water.
Do you see that video on the internet? There was a video on
seal.
Yes. Oh my God, that's the one. Yes, the seal.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I felt awful for the seal.
Unbelievable. So for those of you who missed the video that was on the internet, a seal is being attacked by orca, and it jumps onto the back of a little fishing boat next to the outboard motor and just kind of sits there terrified, waiting for the orca to go by.
Yeah.
And then the person holding their phone looks up, and there's these two massive orca come up, and they take a breath and like, holy crap, this thing just got away.
There's days like that.
It's crazy. So you were talking about fresh water to create space for your teams to not either be in a feeding frenzy on a big jump ball assignment and or have the freedom to create outside of sort of like outside influence of either client or count parameters or whatever. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. The jump ball assignment is my least favorite of all.
Why? Because it demoralizes everyone?
It demoralizes everyone. I think it's toxic. I know that there's entire agencies that function on that model. And those were the agencies, I think, when I was looking for jobs, I was like, I won't take a job at a place.
It goes against mine, and I think the Creative Circus's philosophy that it's a zero-sum game, that someone wins and everyone else loses. I don't like it. I don't like the idea that if my work doesn't get produced, it's because another team beat me at my agency. And I guess that could be real world, but I think I know for myself, I do better work when I have to do the better work.
Yeah.
Like, for real, I have to do it. Like, if I don't do a good job on it, there won't be anything good in the world.
Right.
Versus if I don't do a good job of it, someone else is going I'll lose this jump ball.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't care enough to beat somebody, but I do care enough that the agency and the client have good work. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I don't like them for, like, I'm competitive, and in a jump ball situation, I'll run myself ragged.
Right.
Because I don't want to lose.
Right.
And I hate that environment.
It doesn't work for me.
I don't want to create that environment for others.
It's kind of fear-based as well.
It's a fear-based thing, because it's like, I think a lot of times, like, this is the only thing that client's going to do all year long, and it's going to be big. All teams on deck. Go fuck yourself. I think it's a horrible model.
I don't like it.
I think you get better.
I understand it from a management perspective too.
Yeah.
We want to cover base. We want to see all the ideas we can most ideas we can possibly come up with. But that takes out the individual team's sort of mindset.
They do it a lot. I see it applied to pitches mostly at this point. I think
that's a little different.
In our group,
you know what? Can I say something?
Yeah.
I think that's a little different. I think when I would work on a pitch and do that, I did feel like I was taking one for the team.
You felt like you were all in it together?
A little bit more.
Yeah.
Because if we're going to show a bunch of ideas, it's different. That just feels that felt different to me, I think. I don't know why.
I see that. I think we're always in that situation where the pitches are jump balls like that, where it's just like everybody throw as much as you can at the wall, and what sticks. I found that you get better work out of teams when you're just like, you hold them personally responsible. Like, this is your career. You care about it. This is the assignment that's on your plate. Make it awesome.
Right. My second job, I've often said this, that the work was limited only by me and my partner.
Yeah.
If he and I did not do, or she and I did not do great work, it's our fault.
Yeah.
It's our fault. The only reason that you don't replace your entire portfolio at that job is because you weren't working hard enough or didn't do good work. That's it.
Yeah.
That's nirvana. That's utopia. So that's my new joke, by the way.
What's that?
See that video on the internet? That's my new joke, because I just wanted to see what people say when I say that. Because I think there are a few.
And is that how you baited me into the seal?
I didn't know you were going to say that.
Oh, is that what you were thinking though?
Yeah, that's the video.
That's funny. That's great.
Because you and I weren't I don't think we saw it from the same source.
No.
But that's kind of funny. Well, that's going to date this recording, because that video came out months ago. By the time people hear this, it's going to be like, oh, that one? Yeah, I've seen that one. It's all
old
good.
Guys and their old internet videos.
No, not that old. Come on. That old. So what trait of yours, what do you think it is about you that has served you well so far? What do you think has helped you? And let's go back up before you answer that. Do you feel successful? Do you feel like that your career's been, I mean, are you willing to accept that you have been successful? Because I look at you and think, bravo, well done. But
I think I've had successes. I wouldn't necessarily put I wouldn't put myself in the pile of being successful.
Not because I'm not saying you're done. But
no.
So far, has your career been a success?
It's a work in progress.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what's helped you so far?
I don't know.
How do you define it?
I always feel like there's something better right out there, and that's what kind of keeps me going.
That's
keeps
cool.
me pushing. Like I said, I hate everything I do, so no.
Oh, that's so funny. That's so funny.
No, there's something better.
What's the goal? Okay, so how do you define success for an advertising art director, a creative director?
I guess. Okay. I can talk about my job now and not be embarrassed. I've had moments where when I was talking when people were talking about their job, I just wouldn't bring up like where I worked or what I was working on or what I was doing. That's when I knew I needed something to change.
Yeah, it's great.
So
it's a low bar, but a good one. I think a lot of people have it.
Yeah. Can you talk about what you do for a living and where you do it and feel good about it? That's probably a pretty good thing to aim for.
It's great. And what is it about you, about Lance Parrish as a person? What personal trait do you think has served you well so far?
I think keeping it casual with people mostly.
No hidden agenda with you. Doesn't feel like you're out to screw me out.
I don't like politics, and there's a fucking ton of them. They're everywhere. It's awful, and I will call people on it.
How are you with dealing with it?
It just if there's certain things that like, oh, this is just one of those things that a closed door meeting, and there's information in here and it doesn't need to leave the room, okay, that's fine. That's lock and key type shit, and that's pretty standard. If it's like catty bullshit, I'll put it on the table. Like I think there was this one point in time in a group that I was working in where people started whispering a lot. And so we have an open floor plan, and this one would go over and whisper to that one, and then that one would go whisper to that one. And I just stood. I was like, "Oh, we're those fucking guys that whisper? Is that what we do now? Is that our group? We're the whisperers, huh?" And I just put it on the table, and I'm just like, I want people to know that their behavior is ridiculous, and it's making actually other people around uncomfortable, and it's toxic in the environment. Yeah. So don't. I'm probably going to just call you out for it.
Right.
And
if someone's bothering you, don't be here.
Yeah.
That's great. So if you could go back in time to the day you graduated from the circus and whisper something in young Lance's ear, what would you say to yourself? What do you wish you had known the day that you got out?
That the spot between the couch and the TV is going to be a better section of floor to sleep on than right in front of the bathroom.
Yeah, the bow.
No, if I could go and whisper something in my ear.
By the way, that would have been pretty helpful to know that.
It would have been
really
been helpful. Yeah. Cooper was on the same floor. He actually got the best spot. I would have redone that. What would I whisper to old Lance? You're gonna be fine. Have fun.
You can have fun.
I think I'm worried and stressed a lot. Yeah. And maybe that's...
Did that help, you think? Do you think that stress is a good tool, good sort of human reaction that actually drives? Is stress a driver for you, or is it an inhibitor for you?
It's both.
It can be both, yeah.
It's both. It really is. Like, sometimes it's as if there were no pressure...
Yeah, but pressure doesn't necessarily cause stress. But I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
The stress coming from pressure is a motivator, but the stress of things you can't control can kill you.
Yeah, I do a pretty good job of letting go of those things now.
Good.
I maybe didn't do a great job in the beginning. I think, like, if I... Yeah, that would be a good lesson. I don't know if it's the lesson, but I would probably tell myself, like, don't sweat the shit you can't help.
Yeah, it's great. It's good.
And...
That's good.
Don't lose sleep about that one.
So what's your email that we should give out?
You can have both.
All right, so tell me what they are.
I'm really bad at both, so it doesn't matter.
I don't have them in front of me. I didn't do my notes.
I'm Lance.Parrish with 2 R's at gray.com.
Lance.Parrish@gray.com.
Yep.
And Parrish.Lance@gmail.com.
Yep.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, keep it simple.
That's pretty cool.
It gets confusing, actually.
Yeah.
I mix them up.
Oh, I would too. I would be very confused by that. They're very similar.
They are similar.
Hey, you guys need to Google Lance Parrish and click on the art director over and over and over again, because you got to get his search up, man. Because there was some baseball player with the same name.
Yeah, Hall of Famer, played for the Detroit Tigers, and no matter what I do, I'm always several pages back.
Yeah, this podcast has pushed me up.
Yeah.
There's a Dan Balser who's like the head of the Forestry Commission in the state of Ohio, and he had the first 2 pages when I first Googleized my old name.
And like people like Peter Trueblood just naturally get the first spot.
And he doesn't deserve anything in the first. Nothing.
He's a jerk.
He deserves nothing.
I like Peter.
That makes one of us. Mm-hmm. I tolerate him, and it doesn't matter. We're acting like he's going to hear this.
He's not
going to listen to this. Listeners, Listeners, thank you so much for listening to this podcast. It means so much to me. Lance, thank you so much.
Oh, pleasure. Absolute pleasure.
Great catching up with you. Listeners, we'll see you again in 2 weeks. Until then, send me an email, danspodcast@mac.com. We've lost them already. They all stopped listening.
They stopped.
Yeah, they stopped. Yeah. See you in 2 weeks. Bye.
Cool.
What do you think?
I think it was good. I'm going to listen to it and hate the way I sound. It's fine. That's my burden to bear.
You know what we can do? If I have time, I'll transcribe it and get a voiceover to do your part.